Hey everybody, it's your pal Drew Dracy, and just came in last night after a long drive from Pittsburgh to Georgia, and I'm ready to do another episode. I spent a week with my mom, over a week, and we had a good time. I took care of her, and also she whipped my ass in cards. Green Arrow was a hot book for quite a while. Mike Grell had done 50 straight issues of John Sable Freelance, which I really recommend, from First Comics, and all those issues have been reprinted, and these really nice trade paperbacks with like hard paper and solid covers. IDW reprinted them years ago. I mean, like 15, 20 years ago, and I recommend all of them. So, similar to Howard Chaykin, who had done American Flag for a long time, but went over to DC to do The Shadow, I guess they wanted to make big money again. They were doing good with their own self-published creations, but DC lured a lot of them back, as well as Marvel, I think. Mike Grell does 3 issues of Green Arrow, the Longbow Hunters, now, which got rid of all the gimmicks that Green Arrow had, like the punching bag arrow and stuff like that. It made it more realistic. It was a 3-issue prestige format, and my only gripe was it was Dinah Lance, aka the Black Canary, his lover. She gets attacked and just beaten up, and she gets hogtied, and then Green Arrow comes to the rescue, and I'm just like, really? It's like, I mean, it's kind of a macho trip, but it's like, I wouldn't pick Black Canary. She's hardly the Shrinking Violet. So anyway, that book was for mature readers, those 3 issues. So is this, the ongoing. And the ongoing is really good. I don't think they reprinted like the first year or 2 of this series, and I really recommend it because Mike Grell did like the first year or 2, and then Dan Jurgens took over for a long time, and then Chuck Dixon and Rudolfo DiMaggio did an amazing run. So highly recommend it. Look at that artwork by Hannigan and Giordano. This is quite possibly the best art that Hannigan has ever done. A lot of detail with the lines, but it's not really extraneous or distracting. It's just beautiful. What happens is these 2 guys attacked a gay man in Central Park. So Oliver Queen, who's out jogging, says 2 dead, 11 beatings. God knows how many more were unreported because someone's too frightened. This is where it stops. Oh man, we got rights. And he goes, if you had been paying attention, you might have noticed that I'm not playing by the rules, asshole. This is because I'm not a cop. Now, if you're real quiet, I'll call one and tell him where to find you. Otherwise, I'll just stroll around and pass the word that the gay bashers are cuffed to a tree in the park. We had no choice. And we go into this beautiful, very, very cinematic opening. And, I mean, Frank Miller did this before, and I think Steranko did as well, but this really puts me in the mind of Brian Hitch, like 20 years later, or 15 years, whatever, like wordlessly letting the art do the story. And here comes the number 2. Yo, Reggie, what it be, homeboy? Cut the jive bullshit, Kibo. Speak English. Hang on. Show a little class. Get some decent clothes. You may not be worried about the cops, but you keep dressing like a low-class Italian theater, and you better watch out for the hit squad from the NAACP. So there's a lot going on. There's the main guy's lady, and let's see, is there more of this? So they cover. I mean, this is good stuff. But I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. And there's the girlfriend ready to do some coke, and she's like, "Why don't you ever do some, baby? You never." That's right, I never. That's what gives me the edge on people like Kibo and you. And the champagne glass gets shattered by Green Arrow. I'm going to zoom in on this bad boy. Okay. Oh man, there we go. How about that? How about that? Hannigan Giordano signed it. A lot of artists later, around this time and beyond, would sign big splash pages and that were really cool. And Walt Simonson did that early on, I think, in the 70s. Well, he's trying. This didn't last very long. The DC revival of the Atom, which was one of the next Crisis on Infinite Earths books that got relaunched. Love that shading with the color. And Second Death and Gay Bash Wave. This kind of attention draws heavy fire from the cops. Hey, I don't know dick about this. Maybe you should. This guy comes out. The second in command. He's got his arrow aimed at the big bad. He says, go ahead, but you better ask yourself what happens when this goon blows my brains out. The beautiful thing about an arrow is all you have to do is let go. So he tells him to back off. Drop the guns. He finds out that this guy is doing it for his own agenda. He's saying like, "Oh, I just think it's like joining the club, like a initiation." But he uses the F word that's derogatory to homosexuals. Like, I think you know what I mean. It starts with an F. I did a little checking, found some interesting things about Keith Bowman, who did time in state pen where he was gang raped twice, and they moved him to an isolated cell. I think you got to ask yourself, what kind of organization do you have if one mindless idiot can use it for personal vendetta? So what happens is, before he gives up that Bowman guy, he's got to go through a gauntlet. He says, I need respect. And this is just amazing. Here's how it works. You stay between the lines, stay in their circle. They stay in their circles. All you got to do is get there from here. And unlike traditional comic book fights, hardly anything is said. Let me show you how they do it in the major leagues. That's just stunning. And he gets the tar beat out of him, but he made it. Gotta hand it to you, man. You're determined. Okay, you've earned the right to be heard. Just what the hell do you want? Him. He's like, it's not going down this way. And he goes, other guys have been through the same thing, Kibo. It's a fact of life in prison. But it's not a reason to jeopardize the whole operation. Well, what happens is, how about AIDS, man? That good enough reason for you? That's right. They gave me their damn disease. So they killed me, so I shouldn't kill back. It's taken out. Really, really earth-shattering stuff for 1988 or 89. And it's just done. It's great. It's not done just to be badass killing spree type stuff. I mean, it's very. This would make for. I don't think Arrow, the TV show, ever did an episode like this, but it would have been great. Okay, now we're going to go from the intense stuff to fun stuff. Fighting America, the original, the one and only. This came out in the 50s between Simon and Kirby did it. They were kind of throwing all kinds of things against the wall to see if it stuck. They did the first 10 issues of Captain America. They created them in 1940, and then there was a falling out with Martin Goodman over royalties and such. So later on, they went over and did Kid Gangs and other books that, some were, Newsboy Legion, and, gosh, there was something else I'm trying to think. Boys Ranch, that did really well. But they did Fighting America, and it was just a limited time. It didn't last very long. But this is a 1966 giant-size reprint because everyone was going for superheroes. It was the Batman TV show era. So why not get some zany Fighting Americans? The artwork is great because you'll see Kirby transitioning from his early Captain America issues to the style he employed in the early Silver Age of comics for superheroes and stuff. This cracks me up. extra bonus, collectors, $1 million classics from the golden age of comics. And it's like, that's like trying to make it sound like you win the lottery if you pick up that issue. It's so silly. That's like, what is it? Simon and Kirby did a book called Win a Prize. That's what it was called. Win a Prize. And they're fun. It's like they're spoofing themselves to an extent, but yet the stories are solid. Because you really, I mean, unless you're going to go all for it and you do a knockoff of Wally Wood's magazine stuff, you got to have a little grounded stories that makes you care about the characters. Very Captain America from early Tales of Suspense issues. Now, Roman Scoundrels. Love that. Many years later, Jean-Claude Van Damme would do a kick-ass job between two 18-wheelers, which is just astonishing. If you see it on the internet, it just knocks you out. Here's a very Captain America and Bucky sort of change. Here is the 2-page, it was an obligation for comics to get secondhand mailing, which means cheaper. They had to have 2 pages of text. So they would usually be short stories of the main characters. There's Double Header. Some of the Handsome Devils. Look at that, man. Really good stuff. And I like Simon's inks on this. Earlier Simon inks I didn't really like. It was too, I don't know what, fluffy for my taste. But I don't know. And I don't know if you know what I know when I say that. So, kick some ass. And then there's Yafada's Mustache. I only knew of this book because Fred Hembeck had mentioned it back in one of his self-published books for Fantaco, or his own books for Fantaco, and he did a page on this, and I've been meaning to get it forever. And it's a nice thick book. Now we're going to Captain Victory. We'll just go ahead like 50 years almost, whatever. For Captain Victory and the Galactic Rangers, it was a book solely created by Kirby, owned by Kirby, and published with PC Comics, Pacific Comics for sure, short for Pacific Comics. And the first couple issues were ones he did in the 70s, but he sort of saved them, kind of like this was like during Marvel. And it was very similar to what he did right before he left Marvel for DC in 1970, where he saved some of his characters. Now, Captain Victory, it's, Kirby's turn of phrase is awkward at times, but once you get used to reading it, it rolls. I mean, it's really weird. I used to be real dick about it. I'm like, oh, he can't write. Inked by Michael Thibodeau. I'm not sure how you say it. Colors by Tom Huth. And I really like this. And what's interesting is, you know what? Thibodeau lived somewhere in Georgia, and he had this splash for sale for $500 in the mid-90s. And I called him and left a message, a couple of messages, and say I wanted to buy it. And he never got back to me for some reason. But that's okay. It would have been neat, but what are you going to do? How about that? Now, there have been articles in the Jack Kirby Collector by Tomorrow's Publications and elsewhere online where Captain Victory was sort of like a retooling of the Fourth World with, Orion. But it's not direct. It's very nuanced. Very nuanced. And look at the quality of the art. Mike Thibodeau, I give full credit for, because Mike Royer, his stuff is a little too stiff for me, but, I'm being unfair. He also does good stuff. And at this time, Kirby was using a lot of smaller panels. Here we go. Back up. How about that? This is how cool PC Comics was. It didn't last long. because just like Capital Comics, they were both comic book distributors that decided, well, we'll just publish our own comics. And it just wasn't feasible at the time because they were publishing to the direct market, which was really gutsy, but it was still in its infancy. Freak Wave by Peter Milligan, Brendan McCarthy. Oh, cool. Tim Conrad. So, yeah, they put out such quality stuff. Here we go. Eye for an Eye by Bruce Jones and Kent Williams, who's more known for as a painter, a comic book artist who uses paint as his medium. And it's just beautiful. I think he did, I can't remember if he did the Havoc and Wolverine mini-series in the late 80s, or if he did some other, he did, whatever it was great. I apologize. If you have an answer or correction, please leave a comment below. So, just great stuff. Oofa. Oofa doofa. Okay, now we're going to The Invisible Man from Supernatural Thrillers. I'd mentioned in a previous episode how the quote-unquote horror books from the early 70s kind of bombed, and there was a lot of reasons. I'll try and put the link in the description. I bought this strictly because of the Steranko cover, and it was pretty cheap. It's got the spine roll and all that, but who cares? And also, it's hard to find like in the wild, because sometimes I'll get a wild hair to buy stuff on eBay, and then I go a little crazy. I'm like, I gotta stop spending so much money on eBay. So Ron Gullarth, however you say his name, I apologize, is a very, very, I don't know if he's still around, an incredibly prolific writer. He was a novelist who had, I'm not kidding, like 8 pen names. And he did mostly novels, but once in a while he would come in and do a comic book. This is adopted from the novel by H.G. Wells. Dan Adkins, interestingly enough, does the layouts and the inks. And new kid on the block, Val Mayerick. He'd actually been around for a little bit, but hold on, I gotta take a drink of water. Okay, just talk among yourselves. And I really found myself enjoying this much more than I thought I would, because it's different. It's a much higher quality. It doesn't have the superhero trappings of a lot of the creators that were working at Marvel at the time. And I don't mean to disrespect, but it's just, aside from Len Wein and Bernie Wright's and Swamp Thing, there wasn't a lot of, and even so, that was DC. DC really went all in with their, this was a good thing. Back of the covers of comics for so long, it's like, yeah, you could see yourself at like a store reading that with reading a comic book, and people walking by like you're subliterate. When really comic books, they really help with literacy. I got A's in my English classes. I was a total freeloader. I'm surprised I graduated, but English I got A's, and just because I read these. And I learned what alliterative is, like Stan will say, senses shattering. You got to say like same letters. But lovely art. Really good. And probably super cheap too. Well, we're going to go to a great issue. Avengers 201. They just had they just finished like one of the worst stories in the world, where Ms. Marvel ends up going off to a dimension with the guy who essentially, I don't know how to put it. He essentially created a child through her. What do you call? I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. He just almost destroyed her because he conceived a child using Ms. Marvel, and it was pretty sick. And it had 4 different writers. I don't know who wants to take the blame, but after this, they go lighter, 201, step back. This is where Jarvis takes over. Lovely Perez Austin art. There's Dan Green on the inks. They're cleaning up. He looks at his little Timex. Iron Man does. I love this bunch. If they had like the Black Panther, it would have been really like an extra. It'd be like a perfect lineup, in my opinion. So there's some horsing around. There's some kind of getting back to a semblance of normalcy. Mr. Muscles is Wonder Man, who's coming on this kid show because he's desperate to make it show business. So he has to twirl this thing around with the kids. And one of the kids grabs the hat and has a toupee attached to the host. And I love this laugh. I love that rather than chortle or haha, or they tell you that they're laughing. And you're fired. And meanwhile, the Wasp gets up in the middle of the night while Hank's working in his office. This is a really sharp costume. I really like it. Then all of a sudden, this robot comes out. She tries to zap it with the Wasp sting that she has. Okay, then backup. It's continued. The backup is by David Riccolini, who's the writer. And Roger Stern is historian. Okay, George Perez, Gene Day. How's that for a 1-2 punch of greatness? Because Gene Day, he was heavy-handed, but in a good way, in a very, I can't think of how to describe it, but it just emboldened everything. Bully, I love that logo too. So he's taking a ride to go see his mother, and she's upset because there's this neighborhood bully, and Jarvis won't stand for it. Then off the show, this bruiser fellow that week, Jarvis's are cut above, that sort of thing. Oh, Edwin, do be careful. Mother, I'm always careful. So there's that guy, born to bruise. Pardon me, Mr. Bruiser. I believe you have a slight run-in with my mother, Mrs. Jarvis, this morning. I'm afraid we require remuneration of a dozen grade A eggs at current market value that goes to Pluke. And really cool stuff. Now this story here, 201 and 202, let me get it for you. I should have had it ready, but I don't. I'm back, but I'm all confused. Whoop. I stumble upon myself. Okay. La, 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 la. I'm still here, buddy. Okay. Found it. It's based on the short story by Jim Shooter. For like a couple of years, around the late 70s, Marvel experimented with novel series. And this one had short stories with the Avengers, the Hulk. Jim Shooter wrote the original story of what we just saw, and it's great. It is great. And I wish the adaptation in the Avengers was... I just wish it was a little longer, and because it's like, Ultron shows up, he's gone the next issue. Really good stuff. Recommend it. And that's about it. So I hope you like everything. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. If you haven't, please subscribe. And please share. If you get an Avengers friend or a Kirby friend, please let them know about this, because I want to get more subscribers. Not that I don't appreciate the ones who do subscribe. I'm just playing with my hands here. Wee. So that's it. Anyway, I'll probably do another one maybe tomorrow. All right. Well, if I ran out of things, I don't know how to close this episode. But anyway, thank you for watching.